是字幕要件，叫 Yusuke Muraki。我是日本的航天机构，航天的机构。我工作了4年，亚洲开发银行。今天我想说我的经验。我想在学习中。Thank you very much. I'm Yusuke Muraki from JAXA, and I've worked in ASEAN Development Bank for 4 years. So I'd like to introduce how OpenStreetMap data was used in disaster risk management in developing countries in Asia Pacific. And currently I'm working in JAXA in mission planning department, which is department to come up with new ideas, including satellite projects and satellite applications. So I'd like to discuss as many people as possible to make something new. So today, firstly, I'd like to introduce a background. And secondly, I'd like to introduce 2 cases. First one is the case that ADB used OSM data for the disaster response of Typhoon Haiyan in the Philippines in 2013. And secondly, I'd like to introduce about the new technical assistance project that ADB is going to conduct in 4 countries in Asia. So I already introduced myself, and I'd like to introduce ADB. ADB is ASEAN Development Bank, and you may be wondering why bank use space technology or OpenStreetMap data. Actually, ADB is the bank, but the bank for government of developing countries. So we, or they, because I already retired, so they finance money to the country, and they follow money and build infrastructure like bridges, train, roads, and support the economy of the country. And they conduct projects like loan, which is borrowing money, and grant, which is free money, and technical assistance, giving the technology to those countries. And you can see they processed 13 billion US dollars, which is a huge money in 2014. So there are many opportunities to apply new technology like OpenStreetMap among these projects. And ADB started to use space technology since 2010, when JAXA started to collaborate. And I was the one who sent from JAXA to ADB to support them to apply satellite remote sensing. And I stayed there for 4 years until May this year. And this is how I looked. You can see Space Concierge in the sign plate at the bottom. So I worked as a concierge at the hotel. So anytime when the ADB staff wants to use space technology, they visit me and ask questions, how can I use the technology? And this is how I worked. This is the case in Bangladesh. I went to the river to use satellite-based rainfall data to improve their flood management. So you can see the person wearing the scarf at the right side is me. And I also had a very good experience communicating with the local people, how these new technologies can support the actual life of these people. And ADB, as a bank, focusing the disaster management, and they developed the long-term plan for integrated disaster risk management last year. And in that document, ADB clearly says they will promote the application of space-based and ICT, such as remote sensing and GIS for disaster risk assessment and early warning systems. So if we can come up with good ideas and provide them to them, then they will apply these applications for their operations. So next, I'd like to introduce how ADB used OpenStreetMap for disaster response of Typhoon Haiyan. And as you remember, Typhoon Haiyan hit the Philippines in November 2013, and it was a huge typhoon and killed more than 7,000 people and affected the local economy. And firstly, what we need to do is the damage assessment. Because ADB is the bank which supports the government for the recovery and response. So they need to decide how much money for which kind of subject they need to prepare money. So because I worked in JAXA, I already knew about satellite data sharing mechanism called International Charter for Major Disaster, or Sentinel Asia, which is led by JAXA to share satellite-based data or satellite imagery for free when disaster happens. And the data provided by them is this. You can see red dot and yellow dot, which shows damaged buildings or collapsed building. But this information is not good enough for ADB because we cannot know this yellow dot is hospital or school or other important buildings. Without knowing that, we cannot decide how much money is needed for educational sector or like hospital, the health sector. So we try to look for the map from the government first. But because after disaster, as you can imagine, the government was very chaotic. So it's very difficult to contact with them. I send an email and phone call, but they don't respond more than 1 week. So we decided to use the OpenStreetMap as an alternative source of this information. And thanks to the efforts from volunteers, they already developed the good quality OpenStreetMap data for major cities like Tacloban or Leyte Island. So we picked up these data and combined with this satellite damage assessment so that we could get a number of damaged infrastructure by its type and map. And this is the picture of islands in the Philippines. And this Tacloban city is the most severely damaged city. So we made the maps like this and made a table. So just after 10 days after the typhoon, we could already get the percentage and number of damaged infrastructure in Tacloban city and other 5 places. And also you can see in the Tacloban city, 3 bank collapse and 8 bank damage. So we could roughly understand how much damage was caused by the typhoon, and we use this number as a reference to make decisions. And we also used OpenStreetMap data for estimating number of houses in 40-meter buffer zone. The government decided to prohibit building new buildings inside the 40-meter buffer zone from the shoreline because it's dangerous when new typhoon will hit. But we need to understand what will be the impact to do that. So we just counted the number of houses located inside the 40-meter buffer zone and indicate which city has the most impact. So like in this red circle, more than 500 houses will be affected. And this shows the impact of our satellite data information. For example, as I introduced in OpenStreetMap, we could get this number, 60% of houses are damaged from satellite data. On the other hand,